everyone. Welcome to From the Ground Up. We are a Grit Daily sponsored podcast. We talk to entrepreneurs about their companies, what they're doing in the world. And the hope is that, any entrepreneurs out there, you can learn a little that helps you take your company to the next level. And today I'm joined by Michael Brown, the CEO and chairman of the board of Skyline Robotics. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hey, John. How are you?
Yeah, welcome to the show. First question I always ask is, tell us about yourself. Tell us about Skyline Robotics and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, sure. So I basically grew up in the New York tri-state area my whole life. I've lived in Manhattan since 93. And my background was really distribution and service businesses, acquisition roll-up, have a sales force, have warehouses, inventory, and things of that nature. Sold both of those and signed a 7-year non-compete. So, I want to say in my late 40s, was only in the office supply industry my whole entire life, didn't really, have that many skills, but I wanted to be in the robotics business as a service. And I was driving down the West Side Highway, taking my son to ice hockey practice, and I looked up at Hudson Yards, and I'm like, I cannot believe humans still clean these skyscrapers by hand. So I went and I looked all over the world for technology that I thought would be the right fit for what I was going for. And I found this company, Skyline Robotics, based out of Israel, and I honed in on them. I was able to convince the board that I had a better model, and that I could bring in more capital and that I could commercialize the product. So I joined in December of 20 with my partner Ross. And since that time, we have commercialized the company and the product. We've opened up in New York. We're the first autonomous robot that's ever been given regulatory approval in the city of New York, and we're looking to go global. So it's a lot of fun. And I've never seen anything like it as it relates to the demand for this type of product.
Yeah, just to give everyone a clear picture of what we're looking at here, it's basically, instead of people window washing, it is robots window washing. Give us just like a little, maybe like brief description of how these robots are they. I mean, I know what they look
They're
like.
not like humanoids. These are, so what the company did was there are robotic arms that are used in manufacturing all over the world that most people have seen in car manufacturers and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So it's just repeat. The arm just goes back and forth like a window wiper. And what we're doing is we've taken a lot of off-the-shelf hardware, put it all together, and we're just like an autonomous car. We're mapping the building utilizing LiDAR, and it's then calculating 250 times every second to go back and forth on what is the best path to clean the window.
Mm.
And that's really for us just kind of like the beginning. Because you're up there, we can now use cameras like hyperspectral cameras that can look at the seals of the window and tell you if you have like seals that are broken for air and water filtration. So while we kind of approached it as the window cleaning, that really is like the Trojan horse, because the data that we can collect on the side of the is data that has never been collected before, and drones aren't allowed in cities. So we feel like we have a pretty good, call it, web to grab everyone in.
What can that data be used for? The data of the side of the buildings. I mean,
one, when you think of what happened in Sunnyside, Florida, 5-10 years ago, with building just falling down.
Right. Yeah.
So buildings by law are inspected maybe every 7, 10, 15 years, right? Well, during that time, you have structural integrity issues, right? Yeah. And you could have glue that came undone. You could have, like I was talking about, the caulking in the sealant in the window that can dry up, which will then have air and water come through, which then makes your HVAC system work harder, which then means that you're emitting more carbon. So when you think about
Mm.
prior to the current administration, but ESG, and there's a law called Local Law 97 in New York, which is looking at, the carbon emission of buildings, because buildings are one of the largest emitters of carbon. And when you look at real estate is the largest asset class out there. And when you think about how many people are in a building, and it's only being checked once every, call it 10 years on, is the building okay? While I'm cleaning it, I'm giving you all those readings live. So I could tell you,
Yeah.
so instead of real estate maintenance has really been done by best in practice and through optical seeing something. We're looking to go more into a data driven maintenance schedule. So, people, they do what's called glazing, where they reglaze the building. Well,
Mm.
not all four sides are equal, right? You get different wind, different deterioration of materials because of sunlight and everything else. So we can now say and pinpoint, like, hey, you only need to do this portion. You don't need to go and do everything. And it can allow for, and when you think of these skyscrapers, they're spending 500 million, $1 billion more now. How you don't have that data now is unbelievable.
Yeah, so you're not just selling, window cleaning. You're selling this data package depending on the sort of this complete over. How would you describe the overall product that
I
you're
mean, I would say so. It works for different people in different ways. So when we go into the existing built environment, we work directly with the current service environment, that ecosystem. And what we're doing is we're augmenting their workforce. So 76% of all window cleaners are over the age of 40. It's a union job. And if you looked in New York 10 years, 15 years ago, there was probably 1,500 people in the union. Today, there's only 500. When
wow.
you look at the growth of all skyscrapers over the last 15 years, it's been tremendous. So
Yeah.
you have more windows to clean, you've got less labor, and the buildings are only getting taller. So, from a safety standpoint, people unfortunately get hurt and die every year. Even though it's a highly regulated market in the US, in a lot of places in the rest of the world, it's, they don't even talk about it. A couple people died today.
Yeah.
So we're trying to hit labor shortage, safety, and data for the service provider. And then when you look at the building owner, you're going to be able to provide the data that you're providing them. One should be able to be utilized for when they go to the banks for their loans, because you're really talking about the health profile of the building. Insurance, if you now have less people on the side of the building cleaning the building, one would think insurance would come down. And then the digital twins that we can provide for the building, where I'm giving you a map of your whole entire building, telling you where there are abnormalities, whether it be in the windows or in the facade or whatever is on the side. Now, when you say, like, what could that data be used for? One, it could be used for the maintenance of the building, right? And it could be used in finance. Think about the manufacturers. So the sealant manufacturer, right, is having this put on a building. What data do they know about real world, what's going on with their product, how long it's lasting, and so forth? So I think on the
Yeah.
manufacturing side, we can provide a lot of data. And then when you look at new construction, we're building it directly into the building. So you really don't need humans, and we'll be able to do night cleaning. So right now we could do night cleaning, but regulations don't allow for it because you have to have some sunlight. Given that we don't use sunlight, we use LiDAR. What does some sunlight mean? So there are a lot of things from a regulation standpoint that time will allow for it to continue to get adopted. But we started in New York because it's the most regulated market on the planet for work at heights. So it's kind of like the song, if you do it here, you could do it anywhere.
Yeah.
So we started in New York that way.
Yeah, no, I was asking when are we going to see some of these in San Francisco? But or in the Bay Area where I live. But I know you're just on your first building. But my question is, what did it take? How did it take? Why did it take so long for automating window cleaning to happen?
So
Yeah.
it's not that it's taken so long. There's probably been somewhere between 120 and 150 attempts at it. And most people have come at it where almost like they've taken a Roomba and they put it on like a string and they drop it down and it goes, and that, you know, you every regulation you're breaking. So the technology on having safe operations, they never addressed. Okay. So every time they would get like an approval to go test it, but to get regulatory approval. So what we did was the approach was work within the regulatory schematics. So the building approves the what do you call it, the gondola, the BMU cradle, and all we're doing is we're taking and it's weight. So we're putting robots in and taking the human lives out. So we were able to work with the regulatory body called the Department of Labor, and they gave us over a 2-year period different things that they wanted to be put in from a safety standpoint so that we could have full-time operations in New York. So we've done all of that. You gotta, it's something like this, it's never been done before. There's no outdoor robot that's hanging in the wind, going back and forth, hundreds of feet in the air. And it's just, it's a very unusual use case for the technology.
Yeah, for sure. What's the hardest part of building a business from the ground up like this? Is it the robots? Is it the humans? Or what are your thoughts there?
You have to surround yourself with much smarter people.
I hear this over and over again. Yeah.
And you have to be, if you're going to lead, you have to lead without an ego.
Mm,
And I don't believe in the pyramid type of managing where, top down. I'm a very flat. So if you hire the subject matter expert to do X, let them do X. And what my role is to see the big picture and to provide any historical guidance from my past that can be utilized in, what we're currently doing. But I would say that, young entrepreneurs make many, many, many hundreds of mistakes,
man.
which is understandable. If you have no experience, you're going to make a lot of the mistakes. Usually their determination and the hours that they're putting in outweighs the mistakes that they made. So they know how to get it done. But I would say it's all about who you surround yourself with.
Yeah. And having that ego not be how have you gotten through that? I mean, you're a CEO, you have some level of ego. How have you trained yourself to not let that get in your way, I guess?
So I grew up in I don't want to say a family business, but it was with my father in business when I was in the office supply industry. And we had operations people, we had salespeople. Salespeople were getting paid a commission of a certain amount of the gross profit dollars. So let's say it was like 30% of the gross profit dollars. Well, some of these salespeople were selling $10 million worth of product and we're at a 30% margin and we're making $900,000. I had the operations people that made it all happen, right? That were making nowhere near that amount. And you had this huge disparity.
Mm.
And what I always explain to everyone is one, if you want to go into sales and live that life of being on commission and not knowing when your next paycheck is they're not getting paid better because they're a better person. They're getting paid because they're taking more risk. They're better at certain things. You would like to know that you go to the office and everything else and you have your job and so forth. So everyone has a different role. And I think explaining to people not to get jealous of what others have and just focus on the big picture. Now, I can do that because I was running the company, right? Someone that is in a department can't look at it that way, but I had to look at it that way because I was literally like, I can't believe we're paying this much money to people. And, why can't I utilize it for other employees? But that's just unfortunately the nature of the beast. Sales usually gets compensated better than operations.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, the global impact that you're looking to have with the company and on the window cleaning industry. Tell me about sort of your goals for the global impact that Skyline Robotics will hopefully have. Great name, by the way.
Thank you. I will tell you this. I believe that we will dominate the globe. I believe that this is the first opportunity that I've ever had for real global domination. And I say that for many reasons. So when I talk about global domination, I'm only talking about the skyscrapers in the world, right? So I'm in a subset of a very large asset class, meaning real estate, and only the buildings that are the tallest buildings and have cranes are is my product applicable. Now,
Mm,
there are 68,000 buildings with cranes on them around the world.
68.
We have gotten an inbound increase. We don't do any outbound increase. Everything's inbound from every place on the planet. You name it.
Wow.
Mongolia, Malaysia, everywhere. India, Africa. I mean, it's amazing. And we're rolling the technology out in the largest markets first, but we're also honing in on everything we need to make sure that we're giving the right kind of service, that we're providing the right technology, that we're incubating it in New York. But for us, I want to say China has, we're not going into China yet, but China has more buildings over 150 meters tall than the rest of the planet combined.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
The US has about, I want to say about 1,100 of them. Okay. That are over, let's say, 150 meters. So it's a very small subset that we're going after, number one. So global domination in other markets besides the United States is actually probably easier because when you think of places like Japan, that's more, the families have been around for 300, 400 years. They're these huge conglomerates. There's like 4 or 5 of them that own most of the office and residential buildings in Japan. So you need to call in 4 people, right? And then they roll it out across their platform. So for us, the way we're approaching the markets are we're working directly with the commercial cleaners, service businesses, and we're working directly with the developers and owners because they have these portfolios like a Durst organization, which owns One World Trade Center. They're an investor. They have 27 buildings, and we started on their first building at 1133, and then we will start to roll out to other buildings as it moves along.
Yeah. The next 5, 10 years. So rolling it out, what is the rolling? How often is it going, or how long is it going to be before we start to see robots on the side of every building? Or is that, possible? Or what are we
So
thinking?
in the new construction side, I think you'll start to see some pop up on some of the larger buildings that are being built today. No names, but some of the most iconic buildings, whether it be in Chicago, New York, London, the new construction, that piece, I think you'll start to see that in the next 2 years. The
Mm.
existing environment, We're very focused on London and New York right now. And I would say that from May to October, you'll see robots out there. So
Yeah.
right now, we're not running. I'm not running to say, hey, let's go do every building. I'm trying to build out the technology, continuing to build out the technology more and more so it becomes much more scalable. I want to make it light. We want to make it lighter, faster. I mean, we're 3 times faster already than a human, but if you take 1133 6th Avenue that we cleaned last year as the first uh, commercial cleaning for autonomous. Now, in the US, in Israel, we've cleaned 25 different buildings. So it's not like it's a new thing there. So for us, we believe that we will have somewhere between a 30 and 40% operational pickup on this cycle from what we did on our first cycle. We believe we're going to knock down our water consumption somewhere in the neighborhood of 80%. So we're trying to every day make the product better to bring the efficiencies so that when it's 100% ready for everything, every type of building, you can go and mass market it. Right now, we're just doing what I like to do a crawl, walk, run scenario. And I would say we're in the walking phase.
Yeah. Good.
We're starting to walk. We were crawling for the first 3-4 years, but we did a bunch of proof of concepts in New York over 2-3 years. And then we commercialized. And now New York is fully in business.
What does it look like when you're running? What does the running stage look like? I suppose
So,
that.
running stage, the running stage is we will, after we sell, I would say the first 50 new skyscrapers, I think we'll be off to the races. Because one of the things that we did in new construction, and as I explained, they have these cranes that go on these buildings. That industry went through its own consolidation over the last 25 years, and they all became almost like one company. The largest of those companies is a publicly traded company called Alimac, and they have Coxco Mill, Mantech, Tractel as brands underneath them, and they control somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 65% of the globe. They're in 120 countries, and they have signed an exclusive deal with us to provide an integrated crane with robots for new construction that we just started selling with them. Literally, I want to say today was our first joint sales call. I'll wait to see how it went. But they are working on somewhere between 200 and 400 projects a year. And if they're semi-successful in cross-selling their customers who all want automated window cleaning anyway, and it's such a small line item when you look at, like JP Morgan's new building, it's $3.5 billion. What are we talking about? It's $2 million more. And I can give you data that, their facade costs them 500 million. Their warranty is probably 10 years on it. I'm going to be able to provide them data for 10 years to make sure that for the warranty that they're going to have a facade that is operational and fit.
Great. All right. Last question here. Other jobs and tasks that you would like to automate beyond just window cleaning?
Sure. I call it or everyone calls it the 3Ds, dirty, dull, and dangerous. There is we believe that maritime, so cleaning of hulls on ships. So when you think so they do what's called dry docking of these container ships. Mm-hmm. It costs them somewhere between $2 to $3 million a day to dry dock these very large ships so they could get the barnacles off, because you get much more efficiency on on your oil consumption and gasoline. Mm-hmm. So it could be a 90-day job for them to do it. Okay. Now you talk about if I could knock that down by 50%,
It's a
That's
lot of
some
money too.
real money. In window cleaning, knocking it down 50% isn't gonna, it will, in certain cases, yes, it could buy me a car, but it's not in the millions of dollars. These is in millions and millions and millions of dollars, because these ships are just, they're huge.
And they're getting
Um,
dirty.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I believe that if you look at maritime, I also believe that space will be, if you look at these reusable rockets, I believe that is something that could be used. Anything that has a platform, I believe the robot, even though it's fixed right now, I believe it can work very easily. Now, humanoid robots will eventually come out,
Mm.
you know, but are they going to be in a structured environment or a non-structured environment? Everything that we do is in an unstructured environment,
Yeah.
right? So you're outside in a variable environment, not in control. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's like autonomous cars have been around, for self-driving cars, for a fair amount of time. You don't have global adoption because of the regulations in each area. So you got to really, technology is there, regulations are holding up a lot.
All right. Well, Michael Brown, it's been great to have you on From the Ground Up. Before we bid you goodbye, tell us how everyone can find Skyline Robotics, find you if they would like.
Sure. So www.skylinerobotics.com.
Yeah.
We're on LinkedIn, Instagram. We have a website. I'm Michael Brown. I'm on LinkedIn. And I respond to almost anything that someone sends me. So, it's a lot of fun. And if you don't have passion and you can't articulate it and make it palpable for the other person to understand, it's probably not the right thing to be in.
Yeah. Great advice. Great to have you, Michael, and look forward to having you on next time. Best of luck in the coming years.
All right. Thanks, John.